As far as Ancestry is concerned, this is a list. So this is a list of items that you want to find out about the ancestor that you are identifying for the sitter. So you're doing a reading, somebody comes up, and you want to get information from them. This is just an intention about what it is that you want to find out. The nice part of this list is that if you have this list and you go through it a couple of times and you know what your intention is of what you want to find out, that you could really get this information so that the ancestor that you're dealing with knows already, because you set this intention, because it is out there, you really focus on this thing all the time. You have your list known, and then the ancestor could then see, okay, well, I can answer these questions. So it's basically like an answer sheet, and they can answer the questions that you want from them. So because you know what you would like to know, they can then just fill in the blanks. Not on everything, of course, but on whatever they have the capacity to give to you at that point in time. So for that reason, you can get the name or nickname or surname. This makes it really easy to identify someone if the sitter knows who you're talking about. It could be that the name or surname or nickname was someone that the sitter doesn't know so well, but the person that shows up identifies them with the name. That person can then ask a relative and they can find out who this is. The second thing is you can look at where they lived, so they can give you, maybe if they lived in a different place, if they lived in a different province or prefecture or state, then or county, you can then find out, okay, well, they lived there, so it can help to identify them. Okay, you can also ask if they're male or female. The one lady had a dog and she didn't know if the dog was male or female, and then the dog rolled over and she could identify if the dog was a male or female. Of course, this is very hard with birds, so I would suggest you just maybe look for the ring on the bird's ankle. I think left and right is what they do, and one means a male and the other female. You could do a certain identification for people as well if you want. If you want them to remove their clothes, that's on you. I don't think that would be ideal for most people. So have a way to figure this out. Of course, this doesn't go for all the shades of grey in between that people nowadays get entrenched with. This is just simply to identify them, and if it doesn't help you to know this, well, then it wouldn't really pay them to then give you this information. Another one is, how did they pass? I recently had someone where I keep seeing their head smashing into something, and I got this sense where the car went down, where they went down a hill, and I got this impression that this person was in an accident, and indeed they then died in an accident. So it's good to say this, because then the sitter can really know, okay, well, this is the person that you're talking about, and they can also see, okay, well, this is really something from someone, and it lines up with what happened to them. The next thing is, what did they do for work? I put a spanner in there because shifting spanner, because I really like this sort of tools. So it doesn't mean that they do something physical for work. They could be an accountant, so you could see books there with figures in it, or whatever accountancy type of thing that they're busy with. You could see that they drive a truck. You can see that they may be doing something specific, and of course you can then zoom into it. You can zoom out. You can see if there's a name on it. You can see if there's some identifying feature on it, and this could then help to know that, okay, well, this is the person you're talking about. Another thing is, how old were they? How old were they when they passed? So you could see, okay, well, they are, and also bring this kind of broad term. Remember, there are different cultures in the world that look at age differently. I tell my daughter that, she's got a Korean age and a Western age. The Korean age is the day of conception, and the Western age is the day that she was born. So People do have different ages like that. I think in China it's the same. I'm not too sure of China though. But you can have that people have different ways of seeing their age. So just give it in broad terms. They were in their 20s, they were in their 30s, they were, sort of just outside of puberty, or they were old and grey. You can say that, or you say, well, they were kind of like around over 60 somewhere. They kind of felt that it was irrelevant about how old they were. They didn't really worry about their age. They just know they were older than 60, and they kind of stopped counting. That could really give you a lot of information about the ancestor as well. Okay, then we also talk about the relationship between the sitter and the ancestor. I've gone into depth on this. This is the last one of the lot of the lectures, so I have gone into the relationship to the sitter, and you can then see exactly how to determine that. Okay, then we could have pets and their names. So I do have a special section on pets, but then this is just to see if there's a pet coming up, what is the name of the pet, just to give you an idea which pet this is. We could also have a special memory or a photo of the person. This I've linked in with a couple of things: qualification and a special memory. And then also look wider than the photo. So say, for instance, the person was posing and you say, well, there was his girlfriend was standing just off camera and he kind of looked at her, and that's why he didn't look directly at the camera. I didn't really draw in faces, just so that there's no identifying characteristics here. This isn't to show how well I can draw. This is more just the indication. Okay, they could also show some of their physical characteristics. They could be tall, they could be short, they could be wide or narrow or so. So there could be different physical characteristics to them that you would then want to point out. They could have a necklace or some jewelry that they have. You can then identify the jewelry, but then also describe it. See what it really looks like, and describe it in detail. It was a silver club necklace, or it was a gold necklace that had kind of almost a check mark on it, which is for someone that I know, so that you could then identify, if I see that necklace, I know exactly who it was. Okay, then signs that they are around. You can see sparkles or dragonflies. I used to see a lot of dragonflies when my grandmother was around, and that this would be unseasonable. I would see them in weird places that there's no water around. I would just keep on seeing a lot of dragonflies, and I would know my grandmother's around. The sparkles, I know someone who's seeing sparkles all the time, and that's an ancestor that's around them. Also then how they dressed, their look. So we've got a person with a little hat and a bow tie, so that this could be something that they would be wearing that not a lot of other people wear. And that would distinguish them from someone else. They could have a specific walking stick or cane that they use, so you can see them from that. Also perfume and fragrances, you can actually see and smell those. I've had a lot of times when I smelled something and I would describe the smell. If you really know perfumes and fragrances, well, congratulations. I don't. If you can identify them, even better. This could really give you an edge, of course, if you know what. I'm not going to guess what fragrances are out there, but if you know and you can identify them from smell, great. Also then speed of movement, were they slow moving, were they fast moving, were they maybe always on the go, or were they really sort of lazy? If I look at my daughter, she's not very fast of movement, but then when it comes to me, I'm always on the move and always busy doing something fairly fast. So you could identify them from this. Also, they could have a specific award, something that they're proud of, or show you something that everybody knows that they had. Maybe they talk tirelessly about this, so people can then identify them after death around this specific award. Then you could have their passions, their likes, their dislikes. So they could have a passion for football or rugby or whatever you want to call it. You could have their likes or dislikes, so they could really like coffee or like tea. This is very simple. I mean, my daughter really loves tea, so if I see someone that loves tea, well, that could be definitely someone like that. Or my grandmother always drank tea because she was in a colonial place, from Britain, and tea was a very big drink there, not so much coffee. Then you could also have a look at their hobbies, what they did in their free time. You could also see, well, who met them at passing. I've seen where a lot of people, when they passed on, they were met by a lot of relatives. There's sometimes a lot of people waiting for them. Sometimes when people pass on, they have, say, a father or a mother that is already waiting for them even before they die. So some ancestors are really excellent. They actually are there around before the person dies. This has been reported in some hospitals where some people have seen their mothers or so that are around just before that moment when they pass away. So they actually identified them being a little bit out of it physically. So this is something that does happen. Also, if there's apologies, try not to take it to the letter. Just a general idea of what the apology is about. I know a lot of people get a little bit delusional later in life, especially before they die. They could be suffering from some disease or so. They could be in a lot of pain and not act well because they're in a lot of pain. And then they could say sorry for putting somebody through that experience of them being in pain and then acting out on it. They could also have a special place. I didn't draw it here. So you could have a special place. They could maybe sit on one corner of the table. I always sit in a specific place and in where when I was young, so people could identify me from that. So that would be something that they could show you, that you could then say, well, this person always sat at the head of the table. So you could then identify them according to that. Okay, then heirlooms. I've got the pocket watch here because I really love them. You could describe an heirloom and say, okay, I see a silver pocket watch. It's kind of worn out, especially on the winding up mechanism. And then they say, oh yes, my grandfather, whoever, always had a pocket watch, and he used to wind it up. It started to wear out. The chroming started to come off. Another thing that happens quite a bit is that you can see the events around the funeral, and this could typically be about a special song that someone played, flowers that were there. I saw recently white flowers at a funeral. Person didn't confirm it, but it seemed like they had some kind of a lily or some kind of a white flower that had a very tall kind of look to it. So this is something that you could say, and a lot of the times it's just a person that passed on also saying that, okay, well, yes, they acknowledge that they've seen that at the funeral because they were there. And then morning routine, they could do something specific in the morning that really that characterize them, so that you can identify them. And this is something that could make a really handy addition to your list. There's something like an ID number, identification number, social security number, a telephone number. You can also ask for a PIN if you really set the intention that it could have a PIN. Understand, though, that the person that passed on can only give certain information to you. It depends on what they're capable of doing. So if you put these things on your list, this person can identify those things for you if they are able to do so. And then, just to close off, in the end, anything that is relevant to them or that is not on this list, those things you want to put in as well. So remember that it could be, and my grandfather always, when he filled in customs forms for border crossing, he used to fill in miscellaneous, and miscellaneous generally then meant anything that he forgot. So this was something that irked the customs officials ever so slightly, and because I really enjoyed my grandfather, it's something that I always use. So you could have miscellaneous on your list as well, just so you know that there's other options. So this is something that you could set the intention of having. If you don't want to write this down, you're more than welcome to look at the video footage over and over. You can actually have time marks for yourself, and you don't have to listen to me every time. You can just skip through and look at all the different things on the list, just so you're reminded of it. And that could be your intention, that anything that you see and read in here would be something you'd like to know about the ancestor. The whole point of this is to identify the ancestor. So when you look at this on your reading screen and you have an ancestor popping up, you have your list of things that you would like to find out about them. This is really to give the comfort to the sitter that they know exactly what you're talking about, and it can give them that feeling of knowing that this person is around and that they would find in peace. And then if you go into different things about the person, they at least know exactly what you're talking about. They know they're around. You've identified things that maybe other people don't know about, or that you would have no chance of knowing. And this just gives them that satisfaction that whoever you're talking about is really their relative, and then is someone that then they know exactly what you're talking about. So this is a really handy addition to Ancestors. It's more on the mediumship end of things, and because this course is intuitive readings, I do include different aspects from different styles of reading into the course, just for your benefit, so that if you have an interest in this, you wanted to go more into it, that you can then find a entry point into, say, mediumship readings, for instance.